So I've been wanting to do a video for a while now about this subject. Uh, uh, I tried talking about it on my Hangouts on this channel. However, if any of you watched those, they were kind of dismally awful as far as the audio. My mic kept getting clipped like a ton. And so this past week I was trying to work on a video about this. The problem is my I have this like crippling phobia of public speaking. I've had since I was a kid, and yeah, so pretty much anything where it involves a live mic or a camera, I start freezing up. I start forgetting words and stuff like that. I can I can go over these, can have these big long monologues in my head that just flow beautifully and stuff, and then once I turn on the camera, it just like flies out the window. So please, I hope you'll bear with me here. So yeah, I was gonna do this video just with text and stuff, like photos and music and text, but then once I got into it, it's like too much. It was too much text, so I had to scrap it and just start over and just bite the bullet. We're in the end times, so like it doesn't matter. My phobias don't matter. I mean, I had to sit here and psych myself out for hours before I turned the camera on. Where was I? So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Travis Brabb. I've been a vocal advocate for Lord Stephen Christ ever since I found his work 3 years ago. So this past February, we were kind of hanging out in our group chat, the LSC's insider group chat, and so this was in February 2nd, and I asked the Lord, I said, is it okay if we challenge, kind of step up to the world leaders, challenge them to announce the Lord? And so he kind of he gave his okay on that, and so I made a post on Donald Trump's Facebook wall. So I guess I'll just show the video of that, of the post and the video that the Lord made about it, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you more.
These posts were added to Donald J. Trump's Facebook page, coinciding with Travis actually initiating, publicly confronting world leaders that God is back, and I have my 12 judges ready to rule, and so we're looking for an easy transition for that to happen. So Travis went ahead and wrote this. POTUS, we know that you know and that you are spying on our group. It may be a hard red pill to swallow, but having your cake and eating it too is not an option for you from God's perspective. The Lord is in your neck of the woods right now, and he is entering the house of the strong man to begin the transference of power over to him and his 12 human judges, of which I am one. Meaning I have human authority over you and your people. Meaning I am giving you a direct order on his behalf. Stop pussyfooting around and make arrangements for us to come and meet you at TT, Trump Tower, I believe, so a smooth transition can be made with minimal panic for the masses. Or do you want to be responsible for indirect manslaughter when the sun stops inside God's concave earth and the ice falls from the glass sky? That's alluding to a video I made before when people classify me as crazy or they try to gaslight me with nonsense. They're contributing to not allowing other people to potentially listen to my message and take heed because of it. Going on here, it says it is typed. You have 48 hours to comply with this order, or there will be severe consequences and you will be punished. Now, I believe Travis is talking about spiritual karmic consequences for not acknowledging me, the Lord, me or Travis or any one of my 12 are out to do any form of matters into our own hands type of thinking, and we just allow karma, if you want to call it. You reaping what you sow by neglecting to talk about me. Well, that I would agree with Travis about that. Do not attempt to have us arrested or jailed, or that will make your punishment even worse. Look how it turned out for Obama. Now Travis is alluding to when I made this innocuous internet threat against Barack Obama back in January of 2009, and I was arrested and went to prison for that. And all the while knowing that I had no intention of harming anybody, especially Barack Obama. Going on, it says here, you know who we are and where each of us lives. May your reply conspicuous and direct. May you make your reply. Okay. Make your reply conspicuous and direct. TikTok. Okay, well, there you have it there. And Rhonda also left a comment as well. Mr. Trump, your greatest success will be when you acknowledge Lord Stephen Joseph Christopher as the benefactor of the spherical concave earth and everything in it. The Messiah is ready to be seated on his throne as king. Recognize the times and be expedient, will you? You don't want to end up on the bad side of Christ. Very true, Rhonda, very true. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. Public understanding that I'm back, I am Christ, and I'm ready to reign. Thanks for listening, and do some humble acknowledgement of what I just told you.
So that post was on a Friday night, and so after waiting all weekend, I didn't know if anybody would see it. Obviously, Trump's wall obviously gets thousands and thousands of comments on there a day. So you know that the people that their staff that reads all those comments obviously must have seen the one I typed. But you know, I waited all weekend, and like it came to Sunday night and there was nothing, and so we were just gonna like give up on the president, the government, and just, you know, they're just cursed. But then on Monday morning, I had to go to work, and um, so when I got back from the job, I had a text from my boss saying that the Secret Service had called the scheduling center of the job that I work for, and left a message, left a number and stuff for me to call them back. And then when I got home, my landlord was here. She was like, hey, there's these weird guys in the driveway, and they were like knocking at the door. And she's like, I didn't answer because I don't like to answer the door if I don't know who's there. I'm here alone and stuff. And she said they were in SUVs or whatnot. And then they like went across the street to the neighbors, and they were like asking the neighbors and pointing over towards this house, and like she was just watching him do all that. She was like freaking out. And but like I just kind of, when she told me about it, I was just like, well, that's weird. I wonder who they are. But I kind of had an idea. So anyway, I ended up calling him back. The Secret Service agent, his name is Trent. I'll just say his last name on here, Trent Carithers. And I won't give his phone number out, but that's his name. He's a real dude. This wasn't like a trick. At least I don't think so. So I called him back and arranged for him to come over to my house, and so him and the local sheriff came over. So at first I was like super like kind of freaked out and like sweaty palms and all that good stuff, but I was excited. But I didn't know what to expect, you know. So they got here, and he introduced himself. He introduced the sheriff to me. I forgot the sheriff's name. I'm sorry, Sheriff. So we sat down and pretty much got right into it. First thing that Trent asked me was if I believe that Steve is... Actually, he started the question, do you believe that Lord Stephen Christ is God? I like finished the sentence for him. I was like, do I believe that Steve is God? Yeah, 100%. No hesitation. So then I kind of started giving him a brief rundown of the model, Lord's model, Earth model, and I couldn't really go into like full detail because literally they could have been there for days. You know, I could have been showing them like proof upon proof upon proof. It's like tons of stuff. So I just kind of described it in just kind of an outline, basic outline sketch. But basically what I was trying to stress is to them is the end time scenario, and the sun stopping and the ice falling, and what the Lord had ordained the government to do in preparation for this time. The deep underground military bases. When I started talking about those, the DUMBs and the ice and all the news stories of the ice falling, they really, that sheriff especially, he was like kind of flabbergasted. He looked like it anyway. Kind of like they're kind of putting pieces together, because I was like, guys, listen, there's no way they would need to make those the underground bases that deep underground if all they were worried about is like a nuclear explosion or something. You know, fallout shelters are like a few feet underground maybe. These things are like miles underground. So like, what is it that they're preparing for? What is it that they're not just in the US either, they're all over the world. So what is it that the world leaders are, that the nations are preparing for, that's going to happen like as a world event? Well, it's not going to be like a few nuclear strikes with missiles that probably don't even exist. Anyway, so I'm getting at a tangent here. But basically they kept trying to, or Trent kept trying to steer the conversation back to me, and as if I am like the focus of the whole like conversation or whatever, and just trying to get all kinds of information about me. And I'm like, this isn't even about me. This is about something much bigger than me or you or any of us. This is about God. This is about Steve. This is about his earth and his imminent judgment and his imminent kingdom. But he insisted that I just give him this full rundown of all my details. So I told him kind of a little bit of my life history and how I found Steve's work. He was especially keen to try to pin me down on being some kind of a cult, like a Koresh, like cult member, like gun stasher, like like having all these weapons stashes, and they wanted to like look in my room to make sure I wasn't like hiding guns in my room. Like I'm gonna go out and start killing people or something if they don't like follow the Lord. It's like, you guys are just gonna go out and kill people for God? I'm like, no, it's like the opposite. We're trying to like save people's lives. We're trying to help God save people's lives. He was just doing everything he could to try to cast this in a conventional sense, that would be a good soundbite on the news, or like local crazy man, thinks he knows God or whatever. He kept trying to ask me if I had ever been in a mental institution, or if I had ever been diagnosed with any mental illness. He asked that several times, even though I kept giving him the same answer every time. I haven't. He was just adamant. It has to be like, I have to be like mentally ill in order to believe all this stuff, right? And that's what the Lord called gaslighting. You're kind of gaslighting me, Trent, which I expected. I kind of knew that was coming. I knew that because you have to try to explain it away somehow. It's like part of your job, right? To try to keep the status quo or whatever. Protect the president from loony people. So yeah, I mean, I signed a waiver at the end for him to look at my medical records to prove to him that I've never been like institutionalized. And I was talking to them, pretty rationally and calmly the whole time. I think that's what kind of flabbergasted them, kind of shook them up a little bit. So, yeah, I was explaining the Lord's videos and stuff to the sheriff because Trent already was familiar with them. I think he had done a little bit of homework on the Lord, maybe even going back to 2016, who knows. So yeah, I was telling the sheriff about the Lord's model in his videos and stuff, and then Trent kind of breaks in, and it was almost like he was like trying to convince the sheriff too, like that they were interesting videos. He's like, yeah, he's got all kinds of like animations, and like these are like really good, super good animations and graphs and models and stuff like that. And so it's like I'm not quite sure if he was where he stood on that, because it's like on the one hand he was trying to make me look crazy, but on the other hand he's kind of like becoming convinced himself. Maybe. So I'm trying to think of, yeah. So he was pretty keenly interested in that phrase that the Lord uses, or that the Lord used in a couple of videos where he was talking about entering the house of the strong man to like transfer the power. When we was talking about Washington D.C. and stuff. But yeah, he was so interested in that phrase, he was like writing it down and stuff. House of the strong man, entering the house of the strong man. But so I was just like, the whole reason I made that post. Okay, well, let me back up. Sorry. Basically, one of the reasons for his visit was supposedly to make sure that I wasn't a threat to the president, that I wasn't going to hurt the president, which I have no intention of doing. I'm not a violent person. So I mean, I made it pretty clear that I don't even dislike Trump. I think he's probably, like, conventionally he's probably one of the better presidents we've had, or yada yada, whatever. But I said, I made the post because I wanted to kind of stir up the pot a little bit, and kind of get the government's attention and kind of get things rolling, so to speak. Kind of kick the hornet's nest a little, maybe. So he asked me, like, or like, what does he want? And I was just like, he wants to be acknowledged. He wants his earth to, like, look at him, to acknowledge him, to, like, to love him back. He made this earth out of love for himself, and it just breaks his heart every day the more people continue to ignore him. And he's trying to warn them about what's coming, what's going to happen. And if they don't listen, they're going to perish. And he doesn't will that many may perish or that any may perish, right? So he's just like, well, how does he think he's going to get this power, or to get us? You think we're just gonna hand over the reins of power to him or whatever? And it's not your power to give to him, it's his to take anyway. You never had that power to begin with. It's just an illusion. But I say, yeah, it's going to have to be voluntary. Otherwise, I would hate to imagine the alternative. And they kind of looked at me weird, like, what do you mean alternative? Like, it sounded threatening, right? And I was just like, well, because they were just kind of like, well, how is he going to, like, enforce this power or whatever? And I'm like, well, there's been talk of, like, subterranean creatures and stuff like that, angels / demons that will rise up. They're kind of like slumbering giants. They're like waiting for it's almost like they're set on a timer or something. Like they're scheduled to come out at a certain time. That's just a little theory I have anyway. That kind of made Trent look a little uneasy, kind of shifted around in his seat a little bit. I was talking about these creatures. So I think they might know something. I think there might be something going on underground. Where they've encountered maybe these creatures. So anyway, that's just speculation for right now. As far as let's see, I explained to him that the post I made, right? It's where I told Trump, where I said we know they're spying on us. That was actually just a speculation, because we all knew that somebody was watching us in our private group chat that LSC started on Facebook. It's a private chat. We found out that there were others and they're watching. They kind of gave us a sign of that. So I was just kind of speculating that it was Trump's people, but I'm leaning more towards that it could be a combination of different factions, but probably AI, like maybe some AI and maybe some deep state, that kind of stuff. Don't know, don't really care, because I mean, the Lord is above them all. He supersedes everything. So basically I just told them, look, this is going to happen anyway, with or without you guys. The Lord's going to rule. The sun's going to stop, the ice is going to fall, judgment's going to come. Basically you guys just have a choice to make. basically have a couple different options. Both options lead to the same outcome, which is God ruling over you. So do you choose option one, which is, the path, taking the path of least resistance and getting the highest possible benefit and reward for that, i.e. you get to live, your life gets extended, you get to like enter into the Lord's new kingdom? Or you take option two, which is like the path of most resistance, like where you're putting up resistance and you're getting guaranteed no benefit from that. Like you're guaranteed to like fail, you're guaranteed to die. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer, guys. I mean, do you want to go down in history having people remember you as those guys that tried to hinder God? Do you want to be remembered that way? Do you want to be remembered at all? So anyway, by the end of our conversation, I could tell that both these men were getting a little fidgety, a little shaken up. Like I said, I don't think that sheriff knew what he was in for that day when he came over. But I just told him, look, you guys, it's going to happen. You guys are going to keep seeing more confirmation stories on the news. Pretty soon, the Lord is going to become more worldwide known and announced. Yeah, I mean, I just said, keep your eyes out. You're going to see more stories on the news, like falling ice stories and stuff. And sure enough, this was on February 5th, the day of their visit. And literally 2 days later, on February 7th, was that big mega cryo meteor story from the UK, where the security camera, the street cam, caught the ice falling on camera, and that story made like worldwide news and stuff. It got a lot of views. So I hope you guys saw that, Trent and the sheriff. I hope you guys noticed that. If you were keeping track of the Lord's channel, then you may have seen the story about it because he posted it too. I'm sure you guys are still keeping tabs on him. Probably still keeping tabs on me, but it's not really necessary. Other than, just for your own edification, for your own learning stuff. But hey guys, it's been it's been almost 3 months now. It's almost the beginning of May, and this was February, so what have you guys been doing? What have you been doing, Trent? Did you just go back to your 9 to 5 and file this away in the loony bin? I mean, surely you must have got my medical results back. You must have seen that, I've never been institutionalized. You have to think about this. You have to consider it. You have to consider the possibility that you were talking to a fully functional and sane human being that day. You have to consider the possibility that Steve is God. To me, that's a reality, not a possibility. but to you maybe it's still just a possibility. I really hope you didn't just file that away. I hope you were able to speak to your boss, but I kind of doubt that you did, because he's going on TV and, oh, we're going to Mars and this and that and SpaceX, blah blah blah. We're gonna have a space crew, space team or whatever, space military. Come on. You know that's not gonna happen. You know that he's just digging his hole deeper. You know that he's cursed now, right? You know you can't protect your boss from a curse, from God's curse. Doesn't mean he has to stay cursed. All he's got to do is start playing ball, you know. Inverted ball. I don't know what else to tell you guys. But the gate is narrow. The gate to truth. The gate to salvation. The gate to the Lord. It's very narrow. You have to be searching for truth. You have to be humbly searching without prejudice, without bias. You have to, as objectively as possible, look at the evidence that Steve presents you and make an honest decision about it, because it's not going away. You can't keep ignoring it. You can't keep ignoring the ice, because the ice is going to ignore you. It's not going to care that you're standing there when it falls on you. I have nothing against you guys. Trent, the sheriff, I'm actually happy that you guys came to see me and to hear the truth. And I hope you're still keeping it in mind, and I hope you're preparing your hearts, because when the time comes, we're gonna need strong men to help. We're gonna need help gathering people up for the FEMA camps. We're gonna need even the militia's help. Instead of shooting at the FEMA troops, you guys, all you militia people, if any of you watch this, it will behoove you if you join them instead of fighting them, because they're doing the Lord's work. They are ordained of God. So please, don't be an Alex Jones idiot. Don't go shooting at the troops. Just surrender your arms and go peacefully, so you can be processed and you can be given the decision of whether you want to take the Lord's seal or not. Because otherwise, if you somehow slip through the cracks and you go out in the wilderness to think you're going to be a survivalist, guess what? you might survive for a little while, but as soon as the sun stops, bye-bye. So yeah, I'll show that clip of the mega cryometeor that happened like 2 days after your visit, in case you didn't see it. And I just hope that you take this seriously for your sake, for your boss's sake. Hope he takes it seriously, because I don't want to see any harm come to him either. Goofy bastard. So I guess that's about it for this vid. Since I kind of broke my my fear of presenting on the camera, although I haven't by any means perfected it yet. There will be more videos with talking about different subjects to follow. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.